Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Tony D'Ameco. I'm here today joined by Trinity Slocum. She is a student at the University of Oregon. She's a freshman. How about you introduce yourself?
Hi guys, I'm Trinity. I'm here to talk about environmental impacts around the world.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the topic today for the podcast. I've been doing a little bit of research here and there, and it's also took a class this term called Earth Science that really interested me. And I want to start today by saying something that my science teacher said to me the first day of the term. It really stuck with me. Really, I've never thought about climate change in this way, but I want to see what you guys think about it. So he said that a lot of people, when it comes to climate change, right, they like to talk about how the Earth needs saving, right? We have Earth Day. We have everyone talking about we need to save the Earth, but in reality, we really are trying to save ourselves, because if we were to wipe ourselves out because of carbon dioxide emissions, and we were to just basically gas ourselves out of the Earth, not out of the Earth, but make it uninhabitable because of our pollutants, we would die, but the Earth would continue to thrive, and it would eventually reverse the effects that we have had, and it's going to be okay. The Earth's not going anywhere, especially not because of something that humans are doing. So I think he really gave me a great perspective on it when thinking about, instead of thinking about we need to save the Earth, we need to save ourselves. And I genuinely think that would be a more impactful message if we were to put that on climate change advertisements rather than we need to save the Earth, because a lot of people are like, well, I'm going to die in 80 years. Like, I'm not going to be on the Earth. But I think people are going to care a little bit more about humanity. What do you think about that, Tren?
I honestly think that's a more motivating way to put it, because a lot of people don't care enough to try to save a certain species or a certain area of land, and unfortunately, the way our society is built and the way that a lot of now social media and politics and all sorts of other things work is that they revolve around being a little bit more selfish. And so with that motivating factor in mind, I think people would be more willing to kind of join forces and try to make the environment a little bit better if it was for themselves.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I love that. One of the points I wanted to talk about today, I already kind of touched on it just by this conversation, but as we know, hopefully most of you know, carbon dioxide emissions will make the Earth uninhabitable eventually if we continue down this path of pollution. So I'm going to drop a little stat here, and it was pretty mind-blowing the first time I heard this. I want to see what you guys, along with Trinity, thinks about this. The World Health Organization predicts 250,000 additional yearly deaths by the 2030s due to climate change impacts, and that number will only continue to increase if we stay down this path of pollution. What do you think about that stat? That's a lot. It's a big number, It's hard to fathom.
That's only going to be something we can observe as the years go on, but I don't know. I think there's a lot of ways to maybe cut that number down, but I don't know. I honestly think it could go up from here if people continue to do what they're doing right now and just drive the cars they want to drive with no thought as to how that impacts the Earth. But I don't know. I think the climate changing and the environment changing is almost exponential at this point.
Yeah. That's what the numbers would suggest,
Yeah, it's just building on itself. But it makes me wonder, if we were to improve some things, would that be, reduced exponentially?
Yeah, I think that is a great segue to my next point. Something I want to touch on was renewable energy. It's a common topic when talking about climate change. I mean, you hear it every day. Renewables. We got dams. We got wind turbines. We got solar power, definitely something that we're all aware of. And personally, I believe that if we were to make a better push towards making renewable energies fully power our grids and eliminating fossil fuels completely, obviously that's not going to happen overnight. That's going to take a couple of decades. But a lot of car companies are already promising electric vehicles strictly by 2030, 2035. You saw Ford came out the other day. And maybe not the other day, probably within the last year, though, and it made that claim. So I think that's something that people should really keep in mind. I do want to segue into something else, because as you know on this podcast, we like to bring up counter-arguments. You don't want to be in a bubble. You don't want to just hammer on the same points and, get in your own world. Something to think about, for sure. Recently, they were talking about how lithium batteries are also very bad for the environment for two reasons. One, the extraction of the actual lithium That's not good for the environment. There's no way to properly do that without having a negative impact. But on top of that, more importantly, at the end of a lithium battery's life cycle, there is no proper way to dispose of it, right? And the best idea, personally, I heard, send it to the sun. Someone genuinely suggested that, and I don't think it's that bad of an idea. But my point is I think as humans, we're at a point where there's so many of us that we cannot make I guess it's impossible to not create an environmental impact by trying to sustain our current living. But I think we need to focus on what's going to be the best way to limit our environmental impact while also housing all of the humans that are already here. We have 8 billion, approaching 9 billion people. That's only going up. So we need to figure out a way to best limit our impact to the environment while keeping energy, of course. And, I think a lot of people like to talk about lithium batteries and how they're bad for the environment. But at the end of the day, I think that that's a cost that we have to be willing to make. I think something that people don't touch on also with the lithium batteries is the working conditions within these mines. They're terrible. Most of them are located in Africa, and a lot of the regulations there are not pushed and are not in place to, give the workers the proper conditions and the proper salaries, to live a good lifestyle, have a good quality of life. So I think that's something else that, definitely people got to keep in mind when, lithium batteries are talked about. Another thing I saw recently was, I unfortunately don't have a stat on it, just something I've heard in passing. It was that currently our electrical grid wouldn't even have the power to charge electrical cars if everyone had one. So we need to not only update our the way that we're powering the cars, but also our grid as a whole, because we won't be able to sustain the amount of electricity that would be needed to power the grids. And I'm sorry, I'm rambling as I do. Trinity has a thought here. I want to hear what she has to say.
I guess, have you heard of any alternative ways to power cars? Because, electric cars are something that's been so, it seems like a great solution to, kind of lowering carbon emissions and, our greenhouse gases. But if we can't, power those cars, what is the alternative, or is there one yet?
I'd say, personally, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm going to start with that. Two things, though, I would suggest. One, redoing our grids the way they're set up now, not extremely efficient. There actually, over the summer, there was a different semiconductor that was created that if when you're using electricity, some of it gets lost when it's being transferred, whether it's to a light bulb, whether it's to your laptop, or to your car. You don't get the full electricity because the wires, you lose some. But a new semiconductor has been invented, that you actually you lose a lot less energy. So hopefully that can be implemented on a wide scale, and maybe that can address the problem. Or maybe we go down a different route of energy. Maybe I've heard a lot of talk about nuclear recently. That's definitely something that I think we should continue investing our resources in, because at the end of the day, if we can't figure out another way to power our grids, we're not going to be able to live on Earth much longer. So, yeah. Any thoughts on that?
I want to go back to one thing you touched on. Mm-hmm. What did you mean by sending lithium batteries to the sun? There's no other way to dispose of them.
So this is what I mean. So you can dispose of them, but putting them in a landfill, they start to create radiation, right, because there's something within the battery. I wish I knew. It decays once it stops being used, and that decay creates radiation that's very bad for the environment. You don't want to be around that. Mm-hmm. So people are running into the problem with okay, well, what are we going to do if we have all these electric vehicles? If we make planes electric, we make any sort of transportation electric, what are we going to do with all these extra lithium batteries? We don't have the space. We don't have the resources to be able to properly dispose of them. So some people are suggesting put them in a rocket and send them off, which I don't know. I'm not sure if that's a good idea. Just something I heard, thought it was a funny thing. It sounds pretty hysterical when you think about it, but I guess when you first hear it, but when you really think about it, maybe it's not the worst idea. Anyways, moving on. Something else that I think a lot of people fail to think about when thinking about renewable energies is the stimulation to the economy that they provide. A stat here I'm going to read off. According to a report by the International Renewable Energy Agency, the IRENA, the renewable energy sector employed 11.5 million people worldwide in 2019, with the potential to reach 42 million jobs by 2050. That's a lot of jobs, and I think people fail to realize the potential positive economical impacts that renewable energy could bring. What are your thoughts on that? Or do you have any? Fair enough. Moving on, I think a lot of people overlook the negative impact that fossil fuels when it comes to straight up physical harm to our bodies. Fossil fuels emit harmful pollutants that contribute to respiratory illness. I think this is something that's overlooked. We like to talk about the heating of the earth. We like to talk about greenhouse gases. But I think something that people overlook, and a stat that will really hammer this home, is more than 1 in 10 deaths in both the U.S. and Europe were caused by pollution, along with nearly a third of deaths in Eastern Asia, which includes China. So a lot of the countries in China, add India in there, very heavily populated, and they are extremely unsafe breathing conditions. The air quality there is terrible. And it contributes to a lot of deaths. And that's only going to keep going up if we continue to use fossil fuels. So that is something I think we could definitely end on. But I really want to hear Trinity's thoughts on that, because when I first read that stat, it blew my mind. It really switched my perspective on the, gravity of the situation. But I want to see what she thinks.
We were talking about this earlier, but, that's an interesting stat, because a lot of those countries do have populations who are affected by many other things that may cause fatalities, and so while they may not live as long of lives as other more fortunate countries, that the fact that they're possibly dying even earlier is quite shocking, and just another reason to hopefully get people on board with trying to fix something that's maybe not entirely just about themselves.
Yeah.
But again, that's not entirely plausible.
Yeah.
Considering that we are at the point we're at right now.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. I think something that would be interesting, if I were to see a flyer that said humanity needs saving, and then this stat was right below it, I think that'd be pretty impactful. I think people don't understand the direct impact that pollutants have on our cardiovascular systems, I think. And then I want to go back. I know I said I was going to wrap it up on that, but your mic cut out for a sec. I just want to get your thoughts on the renewable energy sector. Employed 11.5 million people worldwide in 2019, and it's only going to continue to go up. Do you think that is something that should be hammered on when talking about renewable energies? I just want to hear your thoughts.
I guess it's something that I think would be motivating to people when it comes to trying to push renewable energy is a good solution. But again, if you're talking to people who already have jobs and who already are employed, it's not going to, it's not going to be a great motivator for them.
That's fair.
Unfortunately, those people who are employed are usually the ones with the power to make change.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're not, if you're not talking to people who need jobs and who are, desperate to help,
Mm-hmm.
then I don't know what that stat is going to do for you. But I think if you were to get a politician to kind of press that fact, then I think that could be...
Let me give you a fruit for thought here. If you're a politician, something that a lot of people track if you're a policymaker, if you're in office, is it's your ability to create jobs.
Right.
So if I'm a policymaker and someone comes to me and says, hey, renewables will not only save the planet, but they're going to create some jobs as well, that's going to make you look pretty good as a politician, I think that could be something that could be influential.
Yeah, I think that's the only way that would work. Is
that's fair,
getting a politician to press that.
No doubt. And it's interesting, I think with all the lobbyists we have today, with the big companies, if there were to be a lobbyist for renewable energies, I think that would be interesting to see how that would go down. I don't know. I'm not too well versed on politics when it comes to that, but I think that's a great spot to wrap up. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah,
it was great to talk about. I think something to leave you guys with is just keep in mind that our time on Earth here could be limited, and if there's anything you can do to limit your environmental impact, just take advantage. And also, take advantage of the green spaces that while you can, because maybe eventually they'll go away. All right, I'm gonna wrap this up. Have a good day, guys.